So, emotional intelligence as a trader. Created this document here and managed to incorporate a couple things that I thought were important based on a couple different information sources that I used. But, this is super, super important as a day trader. We've gone over things like risk management and building good trade ideas, but EQ, emotional intelligence, is highly important as a day trader, and it's a skill set that's developed over time. It's not necessarily something that you can learn practically in a book, right? So if you just have a look here, this is a framework for discipline and resilience. I took this quote out, a book from one of the famous psychologists in trading. Markets are not rational, people are not rational. The edge begins where your emotions end, right? So your edge as a day trader is where your emotions end. And your edge as a day trader is not necessarily just the strategy that you're working with, right? So it's going to be a deep dive training for EQ. It's not just like fluff mindset stuff, but it's basically a missing link between your technical edge and actually smoothing out your equity curve. Okay. Traders fail not because they lack strategy, but because they lack internal control to execute that strategy without emotional interference. So when I'm coming into session, when majority of my clients and my partners are coming into session, they're not just relying on the strategy because everybody knows the strategy. Strategy is quite easy to learn, but they're actually relying on their internal control to execute the strategy consistently. And that's what builds and produces an equity curve. Okay. So here's how to build an internal software to become more clear-headed, more focused, no matter what the market throws at you, because there's going to be some times where, everybody says, Mike Tyson used to say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. It's the same thing when it comes to day trading. Everybody feels good every now and then, but it just takes that one session where things just don't go your way and you end up going on tilt and you give back a lot of the money that you worked hard for. So what is EQ, right? So EQ, emotional intelligence, it's the ability to recognize, understand, regulate, and channel your emotions in a way that obviously strengthens your performance rather than actually sabotages your performance. So if you go and understand the way your mind works, is humans are built on emotion. We cannot suppress emotion. We cannot act as if it's not there. The job here is not to act as if we don't have emotion, because we are built on emotion, right? It's how the human brain works. However, we need to become more mindful of it. We need to recognize it. We need to understand what it's actually doing. And then we can regulate it and say, okay, cool, well, understand, I'm mindful of it, and as a byproduct, I can slowly start regulating this emotion and even possibly channeling it into a way that actually helps me. Okay. So when I'm in a position and I am feeling edgy and I'm feeling uncertain that I should be in this position, chances are I probably shouldn't be in the position in the first place. I'm most likely trading with too much size. I'm most likely trading with size I'm not comfortable to lose on this position. Okay. So my emotions are actually an indicator for me in a positive way. It's an indicator that what I'm doing is probably not something that I should be doing. Okay. When I put on a trade, I should feel really comfortable. I've put on risk that means nothing to me. I've executed a trade that I've seen occur over and over again. So the moment I'm starting to feel edgy or I'm like slowly going on tilt, it's probably an indicator that this isn't something I should be in. Okay, so in trading, this means not freezing or hesitating under pressure, not panicking after losses, not getting overconfident after wins, and not allowing your emotional bias to corrupt data-driven decision making. Very, very important. We could probably expand on this, quite deeply, but just starting here, not allowing emotional bias to corrupt data-driven decision making. The moment we bring certainty into a trade idea is the moment you're going against data and probability. Okay? And the way data and probability works is that nothing is certain when putting a trade on. It doesn't matter if it's an A++ setup and it has 150 confluences. It's not certain that the trade can work. So the moment we come into the trading space about having certainty is the moment we start allowing an emotional bias to corrupt our decision making in a way that we're coming from not probability mindset, but a certainty mindset. Okay. Not getting overconfident after wins. Once again, you might have 2-3 wins in a row, thinking all of a sudden, oh, I've got this, it's smooth sailing from here. Then you start panicking after 2-3 losses, and then you can't go completely on tilt. So now I've had 2-3 good wins. You've had 2-3 losses, essentially still in profit, but now you're thinking, oh, well, I've just given back half my profits now. And now I'm starting to freeze and hesitate under pressure when the next good opportunity arises. Or I'm sitting in drawdown and I'm freezing under pressure to close the trade, even though I know my plan says close the trade, but I'm freezing and I'm hesitating under pressure because now I've overwhelmed myself with emotions because I had a certainty mindset coming into session. I'm overwhelmed with emotions. I'm not recognizing and understanding what these emotions are actually telling me, and therefore I cannot regulate and channel my emotions for my own benefit. Okay, so 5 pillars of EQ in trading. Radical self-awareness. So elite traders don't just know the markets, but they know themselves. And this is so, so, so valuable. I always tell my new partners and clients when they're coming into this program, it's always about, yes, you're going to be learning strategy and you're going to be learning how to manage risk. But the biggest thing here is that you're actually putting yourself into a self-development program. You begin to know yourself and you begin to realize all the things internally that are hindering you from your own success. Okay, so you must learn to observe yourself like a third party. You need to be able to step away from yourself from a higher perspective and have a broad understanding of what you're actually doing. And then you can start seeing the mistakes you're making. Otherwise, you're going to be like myself that just goes in this endless feedback loop cycle where I think I'm doing things right, but I'm actually not doing things right, but I don't have someone there to explain to me, hey, Zach, you're doing this wrong, bro. Like maybe you should change it. But it's very hard to be able to do that by ourselves. And that's where accountability and a team comes well into play. So what does this kind of look like? Tracking physiological signals. Okay, so tightening chest, shallowing breath, heart rate, like we get physiological signals when sitting in session. The moment you start like physically feeling edgy or, your chest starts to tighten up a bit, your breathing starts to change. You can feel your heart rate going. These are all physiological signals that we should be very, very mindful of. Also, understanding our reflective emotional states, what I call RES. And we'll only understand this through personal data via journaling. So understanding your reflective emotional states. How do I feel when I put a trade on? How do my emotions change from when I put a trade on to when price goes now into profit? What is my reflective emotional state from when I put a trade on to now price goes into profit versus when I put a trade on and now price goes into immediate drawdown? Or what is my reflective emotional state when price pushes up 1.5 hours, starts rejecting, and it slowly creeps down back to break even? So these are my reflective emotional states, the states of mind where I go from feeling one state to the next state based on what's happening on the price chart. Okay, so we need to understand this. If we can become mindful of this, we will perform a lot more confidently in session, and we'll be able to, once again, recognize, understand, and regulate how we're actually feeling. Okay? So some hidden identity beliefs is, if I lose this trade, I did something wrong, or I'm a bad trader. And if I get this trade right, then it'll be a confirmation that I'm doing something right and that I know what I'm doing. Okay? So I've seen so many times again, and it's happened to myself, and I can also feel this creep in every now and then where, I put a trade on and, just based on my past performance now, if I can get this trade right, then I clearly know what I'm doing, because now I've got it. I've got it. But at the same time, if I put this trade on and I'm starting to feel like shit, if I lose this trade and I lose money on this trade, then I really feel unconfident in what I'm doing and my ability in what I'm doing, because now I'm thinking in terms of certainty again and not probability, as we spoke about. I'm not letting the edge play out. I'm not letting probability play out. I'm trading in terms of I wanting to make money on this next position. And if I don't make money on this next position, it's probably because I'm doing something wrong and not playing out in probability. When I put a trade on, the only thing I can really control is it a trade that fits my plan? Is it part of my playbook? And have I managed my risk? After that, it's pure probability. It's not my job to pick winning trades. It's my job to manage my risk first. If I'm continuously managing my risk on all my positions effectively, and I'm executing good trades out of my playbook, my equity curve is going to be smooth over time. It's going to be smooth sailing. But I can have a red day and have a green week. I can have a losing week and a profitable month. So I can never judge myself after one specific trade or a couple series of trades. Okay. So practice. Maybe what we should do is add a pre-emotional audit to your journal. So before you're actually coming into the trading session, do like an audit of how you're feeling, because not every day we're going to be feeling great. And just out of at least my experience, not every day is a day where I feel like I can perform at an optimal state. So I've built up that emotional EQ where when I wake up, I can already feel, am I in an optimal state now to be making decisions? Because sitting in a trading session, as we said, we've got tons of reflective emotional states that we're going through. A couple hundred emotional states that we're going through, from forecasting to executing a trade to managing the position till closing the position at the end, whether it be profit or loss. We've gone through so many reflective emotional states. So if I'm not in an optimal state before I even get to the desk, that's going to determine a lot of where my losses are coming from. Okay. So ask yourself, how am I feeling, and is it aligned with my ability to perform and make optimal decisions? Pretty good, and something you should implement every single day. Next, impulse control and emotional regulation. So this is the discipline muscle, emotional regulation and impulse control. How long can you actually sit in discomfort without needing to react? So this is developed over time, and as traders, we begin to be able to sit on our hands for long, and you begin to find comfort in the discomfort, in a sense that I find comfort by not doing anything rather than finding discomfort by not doing anything. A lot of the guys, they're finding discomfort by not being able to sit on their hands and actually click buttons. They're wanting to always be doing something because they think that doing something is a byproduct of hard work, but that's not the case, right? In trading, it's more, can you sit and do nothing, right, and feel comfortable about it? So this is the urge to get back in after a loss, the itch to increase size after a win, changing plans mid-trade. You can start alleviating these small minor things when sitting in session, that equity curve will start to smooth. So we need to become mindful of these things. These are things that we really need to become mindful of: impulse control, emotional regulation. So true control is being able to do nothing when it's not your setup, no matter how tempting. Okay? So practice this. Use a 2-minute delay timer before entries. Every time you think you should be entering a trade, just wait another 2 minutes. So over here, if I just go, if I'm supposed to put on a trade now, and I think, oof, like I'm 50-50 about this, I don't know if I feel good about it, wait for 2 minutes and then realize, like, if it's a good trade. You'll realize majority of the time, the first 2 minutes have gone into drawdown anyway. So you probably saved yourself a lot of time, stress, effort, just by waiting that extra 2 minutes before getting into a position. It also trains your nervous system to sit in tension without reacting. So you're training yourself to realize that you are actually in control of every single thing that you do. So the moment that you think you're supposed to do something and you purposefully tell yourself you're not going to do it, you're actually training your nervous system to sit in that tension. Okay. So you start building up this impulse control. The next thing, deep internal motivation, understanding process over outcome. So you can't build consistency if your self-worth rises and falls based on what your profit and losses say. So are you trading to win or are you trading to perform? Top traders are obsessed with process excellence and not dopamine hits. They know that losing days are part of the game. They detach themselves for any one trade. They measure success based on quality execution and not outcome. So something I used to do for the longest period of time is base my self-worth and how I'm feeling on the day based on what my P&L was. If I had a losing day on a good trade, I feel like shit. And if I had a good day, profitable day on a shitty trade, I probably feel great, which is completely wrong. Whereas, for example, this morning I took a small loss on DAX and I feel normal. I feel perfectly fine. I'm just gone on with my day as if nothing happened because I took a good setup that I knew makes me money over time. I managed my risk perfectly. If anything, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good because I followed my plan and I performed well. Yes, I didn't make money on the day, but top traders know that losing days are part of the game and they are detached from any one trade. And they're measuring their success based on quality execution, how well they executed the trade, and not outcome. Vital. So start tracking execution scores daily, not just wins, losses, and reward yourself for dopamine, not profits. Reward yourself for discipline and not profits. So something we've implemented is something called daily report cards, and I've received this from guys on Wall Street, at S&P Capital. They utilize daily report cards and we utilize it with our partners where we track scores every single day based on discipline and not based on profit. So we track, for example, if your daily report card says perfect execution for the next week, every single day we'll judge you out of 10 your execution. I don't care whether you made money or lost money. I just want to judge you based on your execution. Okay, so if every single week your daily report card goal changes, and the moment we can start dissecting and work on the small, fine things that are costing you money, that's when you start seeing the profitability that you want to. And daily report cards is something that for myself, 7 years later, still implementing. The guys on Wall Street making $2-3 million a year, still implementing. So vital to start tracking your execution scores daily and reward yourself for discipline and not focusing on profits and losses. Okay, so emotional resilience and recovery. So now what do we do when drawdowns and losses do come? Because it's inevitable, right? Red days are guaranteed. So the question is, how fast can you reset yourself emotionally without going on tilt? Because once again, we are all human. We are all feeling it. We all have emotion. So how fast can you reset yourself on days that maybe don't go your way instead of going on tilt completely and falling into that cycle the next day, and the next day? So resilience is how quickly you can return to a neutral mindset after setbacks. Okay, so most traders overreact when they haven't trained emotional reset protocols. So they think that, okay, cool, well, I've passed the first step, I took a loss, let me step away from the desk, but I've took a really big loss that's sitting on me for the whole day. I've gone to sleep thinking about this. And now, yes, it's a new day, but I'm still carrying this emotion that happened yesterday. And I'm carrying it into this new day because I haven't reset my emotions. I haven't reset my protocols correctly. So now I'm carrying this negative emotion into the next trading session and into the next trading session because I'm still thinking about this bad loss I took over the last couple of days. So you need to know how to clear your nervous system before and after a loss or going on tilt. So a practice we can do is immediately after emotional trades or sitting at the desk for an hour is being able to breathe, walk, and disconnect. So something that I do religiously is I've got pretty decent amount of focus, but I can't sit at a desk for more than an hour and a half. So if I'm sitting at the desk and I've done my forecast, I managed to get on some work, and now all of a sudden London opens and I've already been at the desk for an hour and 15 minutes, there's absolutely no ways I'm going to sit through London for another hour and 15 minutes. I mean, I won't be able to focus, you know. So going for a walk, getting some air, breathing and disconnecting, highly important. Get away from the desk firstly, and then have a recovery ritual. Understanding these processes that we have in a trading business, like reviewing your data, journaling your data, take space, reframe, talk with team members. Because a lot of the time when we take a loss, we step away from the desk, we think that the job's done and that I'm being disciplined, but that's not the discipline. The discipline really is by journaling, reviewing your data, and then building confidence behind figuring out what you've done wrong. So when I've taken a loss, one, I'm already confident because I've mitigated my risk perfectly and I've probably executed a good trade that I know makes me money over time. But my confidence comes in when I've maybe reviewed my last 10 losses and figured out a pinpoint as to something in common between those 10 losses that I can now alleviate. So yes, I haven't necessarily made money, but I've actually reduced my losses based on a small data set that I found by reviewing my data, which I can't do if I'm not journaling. And that increases my confidence. So now I've gone from clearing my nervous system and inputting reset protocols that can make me disconnect, but not only disconnect from the desk and my trading, but actually reconnect with myself by journaling, reviewing the data, and building confidence behind losses and mistakes that I've actually made. Vital. Number 5, emotional neutrality in execution. So this is where you go beyond emotion into professional detachment. Okay? You're no longer seeking highs or avoiding lows. You become a practitioner, kind of like a surgeon, executing a method with calm precision. Emotionally neutral trading actually feels boring, and that's how you know things start working. For myself, it took me about 4 or 5 years, but for the last 2 years, trading has actually been a pretty low dopamine game, right? I used to be feeling excited, I used to feel lows. At the moment, it kind of feels like an equilibrium. I take a loss here, cool, get on with my day. Take a win here, cool, get on with my day. And just that mindset, just that emotional neutral trading is actually what builds consistency over time. Okay, so start building rituals and routine that bring you consistency. Use checklists before entry to reduce in the moment decisions and impulse decisions. And then also just keep your P&L hidden away from your trading at all times. I mean, once I've executed a trade, I've set my risk, I've calculated my risk, set my TP stops, whatever, that execution platform goes away. That's minimized. I'm not even focused on that. I'm focusing on price action. I'm focused on the charts. I'm not worried about my P&L at all. Okay. If we just have a look here, emotional triggers that sabotage traders. So attachment to the outcome. Just the need to want to be right all the time and not being profitable. It's an ego thing that comes from within people, that when they put a trade on, they want to be right because then it proves they're doing something. They're doing something right. They want to make money because it proves they're doing something right. But that's ego. It's got nothing to do with probability and having edge. So they're actually going against, they're not even playing the game right. Okay, they've also got external pressure, needing to prove something to others or even to themselves, right? So a lot of the time I see guys, like, even for myself, like, okay, cool, now you've got family, you've got friends that are all doubting you, you're trying to make this thing work because it works, but they don't. And then at the same time, you putting external pressure on yourself, but also internal pressure. If I just change this to internal pressure, because now you have to make money, you wanting to quit your job really, really soon. You failed 2-3 funded accounts, and now you're starting to doubt yourself, So now you've got this external and internal pressure that you essentially put on yourself that are all completely meaningless. You're not focusing on being present and doing the job right. You're focusing on proving yourself and proving others. So we need to be really mindful for this, and this is something that hinders us from our own success. Also, massive, unrealistic timelines. A lot of the guys come into it, they've got this like mindset that for some reason, they've got a mindset that they can go study for 5 years. They're very happy to go study for 5 years, spend a couple $100,000 on a degree, and then happily try and find a job and probably still struggle to find a job. But for some reason, they've got this mindset that they can get into trading, trade for a couple months and start making money. Like, come on, like, be realistic. This is still a profession. So good things take time. There's that saying, 10,000 hours. If you don't have 10,000 hours behind a profession, you are not a professional. You're only a professional when you have that 10,000 hours of experience. So yes, I do see people make money and people getting funded and payouts within 6 to 12 months, but they still lack the experience that's needed. Okay? So nothing beats experience. Unrealistic timelines is what hinders people from their own ability to make money. Risk misalignment, trading sizes that cause emotional activation. Also a big thing. I mean, we can go as small as simply just putting big risk on that you shouldn't do and having emotional attachment to the money you're trading with, but also sizing up capital too quickly, going from a $10,000 account, getting your first payout, thinking on the top of the world, buying a $100,000 account, and now you're trading with a couple extra zeros. And now all of a sudden you're trading the same market, same strategy, but you mismanaging your risk and your trade management because now you're trading with bigger numbers. So sizing up too quickly is also detrimental. And then the last thing here, over identity with the trader role. Okay, so we discussed this. Self-worth is equal to your P&L, which is completely wrong. Okay, so we should never judge our performance or our ability to trade necessarily based on P&L, because top traders can have losing months and still profitable years. Top traders most certainly do have losing months. If I've got a losing month now after 7 years, what do I think, that like my self-worth's low and that I'm terrible at what I do? No, of course not. Okay, so we discussed some daily EQ protocols for traders, having a pre-market thing here to reset baseline nervous system, pre-trade, making sure you're ready, planning your review even mid-session, starting to feel your reflective emotional states, being able to pause, hydrate, step away from the desk, go for a walk, post-trade, reflecting on your emotions, your executions, reinforce process memory, seeing what you actually did well, what you did wrong, and then end of the day, score yourself, Score yourself based on not how much money you made or lost, but based on your discipline, awareness, and resilience. And then start compounding psychological growth. Start compounding the P&L of your psychological growth and the P&L of your learning curve, and not the P&L of your trading. And then byproduct, you'll start seeing your P&L of your trading increase. So just a couple questions to ask yourself, to self-diagnose emotional blind spots. Am I trading to feel something, or am I trading for edge because I can see I've got edge here? What emotions do I feel before I break my rules? Something you can add here. What emotions do I feel after I break my rules? If I've lost 5 trades in a row now, how would I react? How would you feel if you lost 5 trades in a row? It's completely realistic. Okay. How do I journal my emotions, or do I just journal my setups? Am I mentally okay with being wrong right now? These are so important to start asking yourself. And the moment that you can implement these things into our trading, you're going to notice the difference, guys. So just a quick pre-trade emotional intelligence checklist here we put here. Reset, breathe, right? Reduces cortisol and anchors you into the present moment. When getting to the desk, do an emotional check. What am I feeling right now? How do I feel? Do I feel anxious, excited, frustrated? There's so many things going on in the world right now. Chances are we're not just trading. We've either got businesses, we've got family, we've got friends. Like, how am I feeling right now? Okay. Alignment with my trading plan. Is this setup part of my proven system? Is this trade based on my A+ criteria, or is it more of a B, C grade setup? And this is something that's we discuss quite a lot in our program. Risk acceptance checklist, right? So am I okay with losing this amount right now? Have I sized my position correctly? And if you feel afraid of the risk, chances are you're trading with too much size. So this is so essential, guys. If we can incorporate all of this mindfulness, the resilience, the process over outcome, the data-driven decision making with edge and not thinking in certainty, and understanding radical self-awareness based on our emotions and understanding of what our emotions really are and how we can become friends with them and utilize them as part of our edge rather than working against them, you're going to see a lot more flow states, a lot more streamlining in your trading, and chances are over time you'll start seeing a lot more profitability. So I hope you guys could take something away from this video, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.